Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray for peace. What happened in Paris on Friday night is a symptom that there is no real peace on earth. Let us pray for that conversion of people. Conversion of terrorists, but conversion also of those who live in a false peace. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So this morning we continue our study about fallacies. And now we see fallacies extra diction. Last class we saw fallacies in diction. I mean, in speech, in the way we write, the way we speak. But now it is not concerning first the language, concerned with the reasoning process itself. In fact, it can be a defect of form or a wrong inference. You know what is the inference? The link between the premises and the conclusion. So maybe the inference is only apparent, is not a real inference. So in fact, many fallacies are caused by some non-observance of some rule of the syllogism. You remember we studied the 8 rules of syllogism? In many times, people, they make a syllogism apparently very well built, very well constructed, but in fact, if we watch attentively, one of the rules is not observed. Okay? So those fallacies arise from ignorance of the requirements for a valid proof, or if you want, ignorance of the rules of syllogism. The rules of syllogism. So that kind of fallacies is the ignorance of the valid reasoning process. In fact, it is linked with the chapter on syllogism. So the rules we study in syllogism here are applied. And when we don't observe those rules, we commit fallacies. We can have apparently a good answer, a good conclusion, but in fact there is some vice in the reasoning. So the art of sophistry, that pretension of some people be called sophist, especially among the Greek in the past, but even today, to pretend to prove the truth, but in fact they leave us to error, to deception, okay? The appearance. So now we have to discover what is the weakness of that syllogism, what is the weakness of that demonstration. So the sophist is able to set up his pattern of fallacious reasoning always through the ignorance of the proofs. So they try to make you not attentive and to end you into error. So you cannot see the weaknesses of the reasoning, and you are captivated by the apparent good message. It is the art, I would say, of advertising, because advertising, it is most of the time that kind of reasoning. They want to prove. It's funny. During the same hour, they announce at least 3 products against headache, against suffering, pain. Tylenol, Aleve, and Advil. And each one is the best. Each one is the best. So what is the best, So everyone tries to convince. So that, in fact, it is sophistry. Because it's not possible that the 3 be the best. So first, by accident, one only uses an accidental or a general reason. It is that we call also a hasty generalization. In fact, many things we'll see now are not new for you, because We already spoke about that when we spoke about proposition and we spoke about syllogism. In fact, that chapter is a kind of application of what we study about proposition and what we study about syllogism. Okay? So, a definition. Okay. It is a fallacy affirming from particular to universal. You remember, huh? So if I is true, can I affirm A? No. If O is true, can I affirm? No. So that is exactly it. We call that also false induction. It is one of the most spread fallacies because many people, they start from a few and they interview 2-3 people and everybody is okay. Okay. So first, that fallacy affirms that what is true of the individual or particular, it is true of the species, of the universal. So a remark here, we cannot accept this way of reasoning because the individual or particular is only accidental to the species. So in fact, one individual is not necessarily expressing all the qualities or the determinations of the species. What is true of one case or some cases is not necessarily true for all the cases. So I already explained that. Truth descending, falsity ascending. So truth descending. We cannot say true ascending. We cannot start from a few cases to go to the universal. Okay? Next page, page 1 to 23. For example, some of my friends went to Cameroon and saw many men and women driving Mercedes-Benz, a big car, especially women. So they concluded that the Cameroonian women are rich. They go to Yaoundé, Douala, and they see, we call that the Mamie Mercedes. And they are women who have very good sense of administration. They have their little store, they don't drink, so they can put money aside. Men, unfortunately, are thirsty. Men can control their thirst. So, and they are able finally to buy a Mercedes big car. So they call them the Mamie Mercedes. So I can conclude, because I saw Mamie Mercedes, that all the women in Cameroon, they have a car. They have Mamie Mercedes, not at all, you know. So we are inclined to that. And many times we start from some cases and we extend that to all cases. Every oak is covered with carvings. For the giant trees is covered with carving, and it is an oak. You know, we cannot start from some trees who are scarred. You know, maybe, I don't know if we do that in Vietnam, but in America, in Canada, people don't respect trees. So they take their knife and the beautiful art, with an arrow, and they say, X and Y forever.
Fallacy.
And the tree is growing, and the heart is growing, and we go to some places, to sanctuary, we see that on the wall of the sanctuary. Can we say that, because it is an oak tree, so all oak tree in the United States and Canada, they are carved with a heart, and you know, no. Of course, it is, some places we see that, we cannot generalize, you know. That is the fallacy here. Okay, example. I saw that religious is lazy. That never happened here in Cromwell. Because laziness is not a vice for religious. But sometimes it happens, sometimes. They're very rare, very rare. In my whole life I can say that. I did not find any lazy religious in my whole life. So that is, maybe, I swear where I live, I did not see that. So we can start from some example, some cases, etc. I asked 3 citizens of Cromwell for whom they voted. They said, God, okay, it is clear that I wrote that many years ago. You know? We cannot conclude that all the people in Cromwell are Democrat because someone. It is exactly what television does. The interview. They choose, of course, but if they interview 25%, but they will choose 4, and 4 who are in the line of the station. So they get the impression all the people are for. That is very manipulated. It's very easy to manipulate the news. Very easy. Remember the case recently of the journalist who manipulated the news, the famous journalist. You know, we can manipulate the news. Like some people can manipulate also the data of their account, etc. 3 priests were sued for pedophilia, therefore all priests are pedophiles. When I visited Acapulco, I saw many Mexicans sleeping under their sombreros. So Mexicans spend their time sleeping under their sombrero. No, it was, maybe I was there at the time of the siesta, but they don't spend the whole day on the siesta. You know, we have some prejudices, and some prejudices come from only from a few facts. But if you center on that fact, of course you forget all the rest. And an example. Today in the whole world it's recognized that Americans are obese. But when I look at you, I don't think about that. Except maybe the American like David is not obese, no? So that is, you know, we start sort of generality, we say, Americans are obese. Americans, they eat hamburger. Americans, they have a big car. Americans, they are rich, etc. You know, all that is, if you go to some country, if you think about it. For example, in Cameroon, and television entered in 1984. And because it's not a rich country, so they buy program for the United States. And they bought Dallas and Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. Imagine the first program Cameroon saw, even in the bush. They don't have electricity, but they have a television. The children, every weekend, they go to the city, they charge the battery, and they come back with the battery on their head in the bush to watch football, soccer, football, and Dallas and Santa Barbara. Imagine you see Santa Barbara, you see Dallas. What do you think after that? All Americans are rich. All Americans take any means to make money. All Americans are unfaithful, they cheat with their wives, you know. It is the image, but it's Santa Barbara and Dallas are not the United States. You know, it's human. When you speak about French, English, they call French frog. Why? Because French eat frogs. But in fact, who eats frog? In my life in France, I ate frogs once. And I had the impression I was eating toothpick. No, that's a tendency to generalize. That we call that prejudices. It's very strong, very, very, very strong. So I go now to another consequent, we call the fallacy, the consequent. Fallacy of consequence. Fallacy of consequence. Is the fallacy affirming the consequent Q. So we have to remember if P, then Q. If P, that is the antecedent, that is the consequence. So we affirm Q. Can we affirm P? No. But people affirm P, you know. Okay. It is a fallacy resulting from treating what is true of a genus as though it were peculiar to a species under this given genus. I will explain that. we already saw the present chapter that in conditional syllogism, if we affirm the consequent Q on the effect, we cannot affirm immediately the antecedent P, the cause, because there can be many causes. Okay? So if it rains, antecedent, if it rains, cause, then the ground will be wet. Okay? That is it. The ground is wet. So I affirm P, a Q. The ground is wet. Can affirm it rained? No. Can be many. Can be a pipe broke. It can be in certain villages or city, for example, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, they are responsible for the front of their property. Each one must take care of the front. So everyone has a beautiful. So they wet in the morning. They take the hose, and so many possibilities. You know, we cannot affirm from the effect to the cause. Okay. We understand that. So I go to the just before the bottom of the page. Affirming the consequent Q is not necessarily affirming the antecedent P. It can be any other cause. So we cannot. In fact, we have the sidewalk is wet, or the street is wet, but it can be many possibilities explaining why this the sidewalk is wet this morning. Okay? So page 126. So here we have many applications of that here, many applications. First one, well, if workers obtain no good salaries, P, then there will be a strike. There is a strike. Can we say because they did not have good salaries? No, it can be for another reason. Maybe an employee was killed, or they need a better condition of work. They need air purifier, etc. You know, more protection. Another, that TV show is popular. That is the effect. Because, the cause, 50 million people watch it. Okay? So now I transform that into hypothetical syllogism. If, the cause, if 50 million people watch that TV shows, then that TV show is popular. Because what makes a popularity is the number of people. But that TV shows is popular. Can I conclude that with is the cause 50 million people watch it? No. It can be many. For example, today, Friday night, many stations were centered on Paris. What happened on Paris, you know? So it was not because it was popular, because there was a certain circumstance that people watched that, you know. So it was that because sometimes people give the value of a program to the people who saw the program, or the value of a movie according to the money the movie had during the weekend. Every weekend, you see that movie is first, second, third. And that movie is very good because it had maybe $250 million, you know. The other only 120 million, which is not so good. But we judge, you know, that is not a good, that is a fallacy. It's a kind, don't use that for an example. It's a fallacy, okay? And unfortunately, in capitalism, we judge things according to the result, to the effect. Of course, Jesus said, now a tree must give good fruit. But we should know how the effect is attained. How? For example, the movie Godfather. It is one of the most immoral movies we can see. It was one of the most successful movies. In fact, it is a series of crime in the movie. All that is a moral point of view, it's horrible. All means are good to make money. But it was a great success. Therefore, it's a good movie. He had a lot of Oscar, a lot of success, you know. We call that pragmatism. Huh? We judge a value when you have a material reality, but it's not only that. You know, I think that class can help us to be more critical. Huh? To be more critical. Okay? Another example. That man is a good politician because he is a good talker. So if that man is a good talker, then he will be a good politician. He is a good politician. It is necessary because he is a good talker. No, he can be also a man with a lot of money. He can be also a man very popular because he's an actor. Think about Reagan. He was an actor. Schwarzenegger in California also. Schwarzenegger. Your mother. Huh? So we can be popular for many reasons. The Pope, Francis, is a very good speaker. He speaks well, very slowly, but he speaks to his example. But he does. So, and that is that kind of syllogism express a fallacy. When I affirm Q, I cannot affirm P directly. I have to see all the possibilities, all the possibilities. And when you do that, we are criticizing. We criticize. And what is the word? What is to criticize? The meaning of in Greek criterion means to judge. To judge, it is to be able to see all the possibilities and to find the one that is correct, that is right, you know. Okay. I continue. Attached to the precedent fallacy, there is the fallacy of denying the antecedent. Now we deny P. So if I deny P, can I deny Q? No. So that if people don't obey that, they commit a fallacy. Example here. It has not rained. Excuse me. If it rained, then the street will be wet. But it has not rained, therefore the street will not be wet. We cannot answer that because it can be wet for many reasons. We said that just before. So we cannot start from the cause to the effect. Except, of course, except if there is only one cause. And remember the biconditional syllogism. If and only if. That's a special case. But most of the time I'll say if. If non-P, we don't know. Or we can know after having studying, examining, criticizing all the different possibilities of effect. For example, a doctor, I know that my example is not good. He said, okay, don't do that, don't take that medication, because that medication can provoke that, you know. So he does not know exactly, you know, it's exactly what happened now on television. They announce medication, remedies, but after that they give a litanies, not a litanies of saints, but a litanies of consequences, possible consequences, you know. Okay. Because they don't know. They don't know. So we cannot start from the negation of the cause to go to the negation of the effect. For example, your mother said, don't play with matches. When you were 5 years old, don't play with matches, because it will provoke a fire. And there is a fire in your house. Can you see? It is because you use matches. Next page, 127. Now another kind of fallacies, absolute and qualified statement. That means from particular truth to universal truth. We said a false induction, or hasty generalization. Hasty generalization. So definition. It is a fallacy resulting from treating what is true in certain respect, and in certain circumstances, particular, as though we were true without qualification. That means for every case. So that means, in fact, it is exactly what we saw here. We can start from some cases that are true to arrive to say the whole species is like that. You know, the whole species. Yesterday, I was in a parish in Westbrook, and the parish priest told me, I have a dog. Oh, but you know, he is deaf. That dog is deaf. Therefore, he cannot listen. So, can I start from the fact that the dog is deaf to say, now dogs are deaf? No. You know, we cannot generalize. Of course, it is common sense. That is common sense. But sometimes we forget common sense. And we start from some facts and we generalize. In fact, it is another case of false induction. Sophism, something under circumstances that mean particular. Here you have a correction to do on your paper now. Is always true. And now between brackets it is written false. No, delete false and write true. Okay, that is a mistake. Huh? Okay, it is. Yeah, everybody has that. Huh? Sophism. Something true under circumstances particular is always true. True absolutely. Huh? True absolutely. That means what is true a particular cannot be necessarily true for the whole group. Huh? But I go to the example. That remedy is very good for Jim. Therefore, I know that this remedy is good also. Is a good thing even for you. They say that many times. If a remedy is good for someone, don't give the remedy to another. But you know, we say, it's good for you, okay. I give that to you. Another one. Maybe the other one will not react well. Okay. What is good for one is not necessarily good for everyone. Bread is good for majority of people. But someone, if they eat that bread, they will become sick. Don't you have gluten? Yes, sister.
What is different with the absolute and accident?
Absolute, that means it is necessary for all. Accidental is only for a part. In fact, it's here absolute has the same role as essential. Okay? Absolute. There is no exception. When I say absolutely, no exception. Okay. So proceeding from a particular, we spoke about that. Second, the Great Economic Depression in the 20s and 30s taught people many good lessons. Therefore, economic depression are good for nations. Of course, it can be some good thing. For example, the Second War. World War II was horrible, was a horrible war. But in fact, there was some good thing coming from that war. For example, the industrialization of our countries, Canada, United States, it was caused by that war. Before 1935, the majority of people in Canada and United States, they live on farms. But during the war, they needed workers. So they left the country, many, and they went to work in the industries, the factories, to make arms. And the company were obliged to update their machine to produce. So the plane, etc. It was an occasion of the progress, huge progress of industrialization in Canada and United States. But it was not good because thousands and thousands of soldiers died, and it was very expensive, and people have to pay for that. So that means we cannot only see only a part of the good effects and forget the bad effects. You know? It is not because some advantage comes from the depression. In fact, For example, if you go to Virginia, there is a road at the top of the mountain, Sky Road, very beautiful. It was built to give job for the people who were unemployed during the crisis, economic crisis, and they built a very beautiful road. And in fact, it was not necessary, but it was. Today we enjoy that. You know, tourists go there and they can contemplate Virginia, etc. Landscape is beautiful, but that is only. We cannot say depression are good. Huh? Or for example, you go to the hospital, and during the hospital you think about your death, and you say, "Oh, I have to confess, because if I die." So hospitals are very good. Huh? Everybody should go to the hospital to be converted. No, okay. I go to next part. Next thing. Huh? I knew that seminarians eat well. I went to the feast for the ordination of deacons, and they had a very good meal. Therefore, eat well. It's always false induction. Huh? I saw Marcel with that girl. I'm sure he's in love with her. And we got that also, rash judgment. Huh? Fast is rash judgment. A judgment without foundation. Huh? I saw a priest with a woman. And in the 40s, some newspaper, they were searching for that. Huh? And picture and you see. I give an example, historical example. Cardinal Danielou was one of the most important theologians at Vatican II. He died in Paris in a house of prostitution. Immediately people say, but he was there for the conversion. Jesus, he was with prostitute, no? He was accused. So, you know, we are inclined to judge rapidly. And not, most of the time we have a tendency to judge in the negative, not in the positive. Okay? So that is kind of fallacy.
Why was he there?
Because he was he was accompanied some prostitute to on the way to conversion. I can give my own witness. I was 3 times accompanied the pilgrimage of the prostitute of Paris to Lourdes. So Father Legault we were with the prostitute of Pigalle. Oh, yes, I was. But I was their chaplain, because every year, those who are converted, or those who are not yet converted, they go to Lourdes. And because I was asked 3 times to do that. No, if somebody saw me with them, put a picture, put it in the newspaper, hey! Huh? No. It was a chaplain for them. You know, we preside the Mass, preside the way of the cross, etc. But I was in the same bus, I was in the same house, you know. So it is so easy to generalize, huh? Okay? This employee was late at work. I am sure he is a lazy worker. He can be for another reason. His wife was sick, etc. Huh? Thou shalt not kill, therefore war are forbidden. No, because sometimes war are necessary. Because sometimes it is the ultimate way to defend justice. Huh? You have a problem now the problem we face now with terrorists of ISIS. Huh? I think that we have to do something, otherwise if we do nothing, they will continue to expand. It's already too late anyway. Page 127, non-cause as cause, or pretended cause. Yes, brother.
Before we go to number 1, what's the difference between the number 3 here and number 1, the accident?
Not a big difference. Okay. In fact, all those are different, are the same, always the false induction. It is many presentations of false induction. Okay? So when I will ask questions, it will be very clear. Yeah, I try to avoid double answer. Okay? From coincidence or from anteriority to causality. In Latin, we say post hoc ergo propter hoc. That means after that, hoc in Latin is that, that, after that, therefore, ergo, therefore, because of that. A prior event is cited as cause of a subsequent one. It is a fallacy treating what precedes or accompanies a thing as though it were the cause of the thing. In fact, it is to take a sequential relationship and make of that a causal relationship. It is to give the illusion that any preceding thing is the cause of the following thing. So there is a confusion of causal and temporal connection. We take a temporal connection and we transform that into a causal connection.
Non sequitur? Non sequitur?
Yeah, it's not non-sequential. Not sequential. Non-sequential. That means.
No, in Latin, the non
Latin,
it does not follow.
Post hoc.
No, in Latin,
Yeah.
non sequitur.
No, we non sequitur. Okay.
Yeah.
You speak English and speak Latin. Non sequitur. That means that not follow. The verb in Latin, sequor. And sequitur, he follows. He follows. He follows. So non sequitur, that means there is no link of anteriority between. I cannot conclude because, for example, you arrive in the kitchen. Just before arriving in the kitchen, you see your little brother running out of the kitchen. You arrive in the kitchen and you see there is a lot of milk on the floor. So what is the conclusion? He did that. Maybe he did not that. Maybe it is the cat. Maybe it is something by accident, earthquake. I don't know. Many reasons. No? It is not because that happened many times. Many errors in justice are based on that. We saw a man walking out of your rectory. And you arrive in the rectory, you see a dead man. In your office, a dead man is there. So you see, immediately you make a link between the man running out and the man on the floor. Maybe the man who entered was so afraid to see a dead man, he ran out. Sequence is not cause. It's not because the thing happened before, it is the cause. I gave an example, funny, but a few years ago, many years ago, in the time in Montreal, we have a baseball club, I call the Expo of Montreal, the Expo. They were playing in Auckland, not far from San Francisco. And there was an earthquake. They began to play, and there was an earthquake. Therefore, the Expo are the cause of the earthquake. Because there was no earthquake, but they arrived and there was an earthquake. Therefore, you know, that you smile. You're right to smile. But people, many times, they make a connection. They transform a sequence into a cause. A sequence into a cause. Maybe there is only a temporal connection in another example. We saw John walking out of the house now. Before my second, he is a good violinist because he played at the age of 5. He is a good violinist because he plays. It is because he plays at the age of 5 that he is a good violinist? No. On the contrary, because he is a good violinist, he played at the age of 5. Okay. After is the very pious seminarian. There is no after, I can say that. Because I saw him going out of the chapel during recreation. Can I conclude? He is pious because I saw him. Maybe he went to the chapel because he forgot his wallet, he forgot his glasses, I don't know. No? We cannot see a sequence is a cause because I see a series of events. Therefore, those who came before are the cause of what happened after. You know? He is good physician because he's a graduate from Yale. It is because I study in Yale that I am necessarily a good doctor. No. It is because I study in the Holy Apostle that I am a good pastor, a good master of novices, etc.
Yes. No.
He was designated cardinal by John Paul II because he visited the Pope last spring. Donc, his visit is the cause of his denomination. He gets some bribe, he bribed the Pope. He drank 2 beers. It is not surprised that he sang so well. So it's the fact we drink beer, we sing well. His vacation was pleasant after attending his MA. It is necessary because he attended MA, the vocation was pleasing. He is an Orthodox teacher because he studied in the eminent Roman Catholic University. No, what happened before is not the cause of what happened after. Sometimes it can be, but it is not necessarily. You have to prove that. He can inform us about Vatican II because he was in Rome during the council. But you know, he could be in Rome and know nothing about Vatican II. Okay, next page. So the fallacy of false analogy. Well, I add that it's not in the book of Sister Spangler, but I think it's important because we use so much analogy. So we say in French, comparison is not a reason. It is not because I compare 2 things that there is necessary a link of, it is the same in every reality. It is the function of analogy to illustrate, support, help to understand, but it does not demonstrate. Analogy does not demonstrate. Analogy is not a proof. Analogy is a way to understand. Is a way to understand some situation, is not a proof. We cannot prove only through analogy. For example, ambulances and police car go through red lights if they are in a hurry. I should be able to do the same when I am in a hurry. So comparison is not reason. It is not because someone do something that I am allowed to do that. And that is very, very spread in our society. No? They do that, therefore, you can do that. We justify by analogy. We justify by comparison. So no analogy must be taken at the foot of the letter. In the Gospel, when Jesus said, cut your hand, plot your eye. It is to take at the letter. I think there will be, many will not be able to write. The first, myself. Oh, to see. And in fact, a Muslim, they apply that. For example, in Central Africa, Bokassa, the Emperor Bokassa, decided to apply that rule. So the little boy who stole, they caught him. And now what they do? What they did, they came to Cameroon, and now they are on the street for the rest of their life, and they are beggar. They are beggar. So therefore, can anyone take an axe and cut one's hand? Because he's inclined, no. So comparison is not a reason. The wrong someone do without being punished is not a reason to justify others to do the same. And that argument is very, very, very used in society. Everybody does that, therefore do that also. Very strong. That justifies many, many immorality. Immoral action are based many on the time with that. My friend at the school, everyone they do that. They smoke pot. They smoke pot. I should smoke pot also. You know. They cheat. Everyone don't cheat. I should. We justify because the other do something. So we use analogy. We use comparison. Comparison is not reason. You said to your father, Dad, I need $10. No. But the other father, they receive $50. And you cannot give me $10. Comparison is not a reason. Your father has some reason not to give you $10. And it's not, of course, this is the influence. All those do that. Oh, my little boy, my little boy. No. Comparison is not a reason. Very, very, very important. Very important. Because it is an argument very often used by people to justify the way they live. The way, divorce is not a big. If half of the people divorce today, it's not a big problem. So, ignorance 5. Ignorance of proof. Sometimes also they call that ignorance of the question. Ignorance of the question or ignorance of the proof. In fact, if I ignore the question, I ignore the proof. We call that also in Latin ignorantia elenchi, or irrelevant reasoning. That means the reasoning you use does not fit with the question. In mathematics, sometimes we give a problem to students, and they give, in geometry, they give another theorem. They don't know the theorem I asked to explain now, but they use another theorem they know very well. It's not what I asked them. I am a teacher, I can see that happen many times in examination, even oral examination. Oral examination. I ask a question, and the student gives me a beautiful answer. Oh, it's not the answer I ask. I say, I ask you that. Oh, yes, another. I do not invent. I am not a creator of, no. There is a tendency for that. We ignore the question. So we continue. Definition. It is a fallacy from, next page, from resulting from ignoring the requirement or the demand of the proof. For example, have you ever been arrested? Sir, how dare you ask me that? I am an honest, religious, honest sister. Never the police arrested me because of speed. Never. Huh? Imagine. Or the policeman stop you. Huh? You are driving, and he stop you. You say, "Hey, father," or "Hey, sister, can you read what is written there?" And you say, "How do you dare to ask me if I know how to read?" You know? We don't answer the question, we try to avoid the question. In oral examination, sometimes it's very, very funny, because the student answer, good answer, but not the answer I ask. For example, your mother can say, where did you do yesterday? Huh? And you say, oh, yesterday it was a very beautiful weather. You know? Oh, my Uncle Teresa was very good. Oh, yeah. But mother wants to know other things, that your Aunt Teresa or your Uncle John, huh? Or if you want beautiful weather. That is a tendency. That ignorance of the proof is the comprehensive fallacy which embraces any proof which seems to conclude because of ignorance of arguers, but does not conclude. So we try to give some answer, the right answer, but it's not the answer we are searching for. That happened with the doctor. You know, some people are so afraid to be sick that they try always not, they don't answer the question the doctor asked them.
Can I work on the computer?
Yes. Okay, go. I can continue.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
So they are so attentive to philosophy, they will not be distracted by you. Okay, so this fallacy is illustrated by argument which ignore the point to be proved. We ignore the point to be. There are many kinds. And now we have four 5 different kinds of fallacies. First, the argument ad hominem. Ad hominem. Hominem comes from homo, means man. Huh? So against the man. We don't fight the ideas of the person, we fight the person itself. So we don't answer the question ad hominem, against a man, against the person. It is an irrelevant attack on person character. For example, you should not elect my opponent to the board, to the school board, because he never finished, he never graduated from college. So we take, it is used sometimes, recently they used that in the what do you say, the contest between the candidate to the president. And they say, when you were 18 years old, you did that, you smoked pot. They did that for Clinton. They say, yes, I smoked pot. They attack, instead of attacking the ideas of the politician, they go back in the past and they try to attack the person, to discredit the person, to make the person at the eye of the, once you met the doctor, Dr. Carson, he said, when I was young, I thought to think, to kill. Immediately, he is a killer. Now, when he was young, we have many thoughts pass through our mind, So we attack the person. You say, your father, we cannot vote for that candidate because his father was in jail 20 years. So we attack the reputation or the past of a person instead of attacking his ideas. It is also called genetic fallacy. Genetic, because it is in the gene, if you want. Dismissing the result of a process because of its origin. Nathanael, what he said about Jesus. What good can come out of Nazareth? In fact, it is a kind of prejudice. Argument, I said, ad hominem, I include prejudice of color, race, social class, and religion. In the mind of one person, we attack another. We don't attack the ideas, we attack the person. The argument now of ad populum. Populus means the people. People. And in fact, the crowd. And sometimes we say the mob. In fact, mob comes from mobile or mobile. That means changing. Changing. That is changing. Okay. So argument to the crowd. It is a plea based on the arousal of passion and prejudices in the crowd. So we don't attack the idea, we attack we attack the reputation, but exciting the patient against that person. That is used arousal. We call that demagogy. Demagogy. People, I got it to control, to lead. So the demagogy, we control the people, the mob, if you want, the crowd, calling to argument, to their emotion, to their feeling, to their prejudice, instead of calling to their reason. You know what I told you? Plato does not like democracy because of that. He said because people vote because many times they vote only because of their passion, their interest, their opinion, etc. Okay. So now I go. It is an next page. It is an arousal of emotions. And some people are very good for that. They have a gift to control control people. You have a very, at least two cases very important in the United States. It is the people who go to Guyana. You remember? What is the name of that guy?
Jim Jones?
Jim John. And Jim John take 745 people, something like that. He left everything in California and they went. He was influencing there, actually through their emotion. Another example, it is Mason. You know Mason? The one who killed a kind of guru.
Yeah.
Manson.
Manson. Charles Manson. Manson. Charles Manson. In fact, Manson has a great charism to manipulate crowds. Some people are good for that. Hitler at that. He was a man. He was able to take thousands of people, and at the end, all the people cried. The same thing, the same way. So that is we call demagogy. We don't reason the people. We call them to. We provoke their emotion, their hatred, or their love for something, etc. And that is, I saw recently a movie about Manson, the power of hypnotizing. He was at the power of, he had not hypnotized people. And when people are hypnotized, they are no more themselves, you know. Imagine 750, 40 people. It's a huge, one man. You know, that is here, okay? Another argument, okay, example. Elect John Pitt and you will regret your vote. Huh? You will suffer because you will pay taxes, you know. Huh? We have to pay taxes, but no, we insist so much on the suffering that, oh no, that candidate is not good. You can have excellent ideas, but we use all the means to make people don't vote for him. Huh? Etc. So a vote for Titus is a good man because a member of our tribe. John is surely not guilty because a member of my family, etc. No, I go to, here is the danger of the general opinion. Here. In fact, it is close to what we said before. Everybody does that, therefore do that. That the general opinion, the fashion, fashion. It is interesting how to see a few men in Canada, in United States, in France, they create a fashion every year to make money. And you are not following that fashion, you are a dinosaur, and you are not a real women or real men because you don't have the little crocodile here, you don't have the, you know, the Nike. Okay? Argument of vericondia, that is the sense of shame. In fact, it's an argument from a reverence. We refer to authority. In Latin, we say magister dixit. The teacher said. Not Father Legault, of course. Magister dixit. And that is an argument of authority. Einstein will not agree with you. Imagine Einstein. Here in seminary, St. Thomas will never thought like you. Okay? Etc. You know? So that argument is used a lot. For example, you know, the company you want to sell product, what they do now, they hire great players, they hire great actors, and those they present the product. So the product is presented by that footballer or that actor, oh that actress, oh. It's good. Huh? I told you, maybe my brother has 2 daughters, and he went to the store. I did not say that. So they were 2 little, one was 4 years old, the other 6 years old. He went to the supermarket to buy cereal. So my brother, he took cereal made by the company, so put that. And my little niece said, Father, we will not eat that. My brother, why? Because they are not advertised on television. Think about that, 4 years old, 6 years old. They are not advertised on television. 6 years old, my niece was making a discernment between serial announced on television and serial non-announced. Those are good if they are announced on television. That's the argument of authority. A footballer. It can be also in philosophy, a philosopher. St. Thomas said that. Plato. You know, the problem of Galileo affair is based on that. They base all the truth on Aristotle. Aristotle said that, and you say the contrary, therefore you are not right. For me, it is the weakest argument. I don't, you see, if you look, and it's very rare I quote St. Thomas, very rare I quote any philosopher. Because I cannot accept authority in philosophy. In theology, it's totally different. Because it is the revelation. But in philosophy, it is my reason. I must think, not because another thing. I must think by myself. So you see, you know, the truth is not because St. Thomas said that, or St. Bonaventure, or Don Scott, or St. Augustine. The truth is the truth in itself. It's not the truth because a man said that. Sometimes they confound theology and philosophy. I know that by experience since I am here. In Africa was the same thing. Seminarians have a tendency to quote the Bible, to quote saints in philosophy. No, it's different. Huh? It's different. Argument misericordiam. And, oh, pity. You know, that gangster who killed 10 people, you know, when he was a baby, he was maltreated, abused by his father. Oh, he's not responsible. Argument, pity, mercy. Okay? Argument at baculum. I will say l'argument with the baseball bat. So, the argument, the big stick, menacing, an argument based on fear. On fear. I am right because I am a lion. And you have the wolf and the lamb. And there is the river here going down. The wolf is here, the lamb is here. And the lamb, both are drinking. And the wolf said to the lamb, you corrupt my water. My water is not clean because of you. In fact, it's impossible. But you know, he is the strongest. No? In Latin, quia nominor leo. Because I am called lion. No? The strong. Huh? The argument of the strong one. Huh? Here in the United States, especially in the United States, the argument of the richest one. He's rich, therefore he's right. You know? Baculum, huh? Baculum. Okay, we can read that by yourself. Begging the question, huh? Vicious circle, secular demonstration, petition of principle. The very use of the point to be proved as the needed reason. In fact, fallacy results from taking from granted as a premise the very thing we have to be proved, is to be proved. To which is questioned and needs to be proved is begged. In fact, if the conclusion is used as a proof. The conclusion is used as a proof. Example. Because Mary, why Mary was chosen, okay? Because Mary is the most qualified. Wow, but why is the most qualified? Because she was chosen. It's like a cat with a thin cat attached to his tail. Huh? A dog. Huh? A vicious circle. A vicious circle. And yeah, so you have many. You have first a flat contradiction that won't insist on that. The second one, because hysteron, posteron, which is Greek, the later earlier, it is putting the cart before the horse. Putting the cart before the horse. Or the reversal of natural or relational order. Or taken, what is important, taken for granted what needs to be proved. Tautology is the mere repetition, simple repetition. We say the same thing. A circle is a line that encircles around. Well, we know by definition, the word to be defined must not be in the definition. Vicious circle, I will insist on that a little bit, is to try to prove the statement A by B and B depend on A. Example here. A soul is simple Because it is non-dimensional. And it is non-dimensional because it is simple, you know. So we prove one by the other. In fact, we turn around. O. Henry, chocolate is the better than other brand because numerous people eat it. And more people eat O. Henry chocolate because it is better than other brand. That's a vicious circle. But they can't make a kind of vicious circle when he speaks about the God existence. And to prove God existence by human reason. Right? To prove the existence of God, I use my human reason. The extent of my human reason. But who give my human reason the capacity to know God? God. So, you know, my knowledge, they can't say, my knowledge comes from God, okay? Illumination from God. So I prove the existence of God using my intellect. But my intellect is made by God. So God put in me the innate idea of His existence, and from that innate idea of His existence, I prove He exists. You know, it is a kind of vicious circle. Huh? The opponent to St. Thomas accused him also in the proof of the existence of God from the order and to be also, but in fact it's not true because St. Thomas does not start from the order directly. He starts from the fact. Huh? All the proof of the existence of God start from a fact. Okay? So it's not it's a false accusation against St. Thomas. Okay? And in the rectangle, it's very good. Three thieves are arguing over the division of 7 fine pearls. One of them hands 2 to the man on the right and 2 on the left. The man on the right say, hey, how come you keep 3? Huh? Because I am the leader. Oh, but how can you be the leader? Because I have 3. You know, okay? So 2 questions as 1. So we already spoke about that when you see 1 question, 1 answer. Huh? We call it a complex question. Huh? The sophism of many questions function in such a way that a single answer involves an error. For example, do you want, excuse me, may married and divorced people receive communion or not? May married people and divorced people can receive communion or not? That we should say, can married people receive communion? Can divorced people receive communion? Otherwise, you can. If you answer one, it's wrong for the other. Huh? It's like a dilemma. Huh? In fact, a dilemma is like that. Huh? For example, do you want universal free health care and pay more taxes? Of course, everyone wants universal health care, but not to pay taxes. So we should separate the question. You know? It was the same happened in Canada when we have a tendency to separate Quebec from the rest of the country. And the question that was asked was like that. It was, we are for one part of the question, we are not for, but you have only to say yes or no, you know. It is a very ambiguous question, no? Okay? For example, do you want to have a good meal on Thanksgiving and pay $40? Everybody say, I want to have a good meal, but I don't want to pay $40, you know. So we have to separate the question, okay? And finally, the last paragraph. In fact, dilemmas are also a kind of possibilities. Huh? And I have you here something, it's not in the book of Sister Spangler. Contradiction in adjective, huh? Contradiction in the phrase. Adjective, huh? Word for word, something added. A round square or a square round. Can God make a round square? It's contradictory. Huh? Oh, No, he cannot, but can he make a square round? I know, okay. A true lie, a false truth. You know, that is, they call that contradiction in the phrase. Huh? Indeed, in his infinite wisdom, God cannot contradict himself and produce contradictory reality. We cannot ask God to create a wrong, false truth or a true lie. Sometimes people are attracted by, some definition. You say, oh, you cannot do that, therefore you are not. But I cannot ask someone to do something is not in his own capacity. I will not ask my mother to explain all the cause of the flu, for example. She know a little bit, but she know how to treat that, So, I remember here when I was 5, 6 years old, the first time I went to school, we have a class of catechism, and it's very clear in my memory. So the teachers, we mentioned, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. So a child said, no, God is not everywhere. God is not he's not our basement. Huh? It's not in the basement. And you know the answer, because we don't have a basement. That was the joke of chicken. Okay, so next class I will consecrate 2 hours for material logic to prepare you. That class is more on concepts. You already know in some new concept you will know.